Let's take you back now to that interview. Eskom has welcomed the National Energy Regulator of South Africa's approval of an 18.65 electricity tariff increase. In July last year, the High Court ordered Nersa to decide on Eskom's multi-year price determination application. Let's discuss this further with Eskom's Regulation General Manager, Hasha Tlhotlhalemaje. Thank you very much for your time this evening and for joining us. So, in a statement, you've said that Eskom appreciates the tough decision made by Nersa and recognizes the pressures this determination will place on consumers. Now, recognizing that this decision will force countless South Africans to have to choose between electricity and food must be incredibly difficult. Does that keep you up at night?
Well, I wouldn't put it that way, in that there has to be these choices. We have to keep in mind, as far as the poor residential customers are concerned, the government and Nersa together do provide some kind of safety net where the increases are not as severe as this might be. So I don't think it comes to that kind of situation. And these include, for example, the 50 kilowatt hour basic electricity, the inclining block rate, and Nersa doesn't do the increase as much for these particular group of customers. So, we have to be looking at the details and not only looking at the averages. But also we need to keep in mind that money for the efficient cost of electricity needs to come from somewhere. If it doesn't come from the consumers who consume this service, then it would need to come from the fewer taxpayers that are in this country, and therefore it then imposes on other the National Treasury priorities as well. So therefore, that is why we call it a very tough kind of decision. So there is no running away from where this recovery of the efficient cost of electricity would come from.
So you want clarity from Nersa on the determination of those percentages of the increases for both 2024 and 2025. What clarity are you seeking from them?
No. What we usually, when Nersa makes a decision, it then provides a reasons for its decision. So it's a detailed analysis document that it would publicize, to show how it arrived at particular line items in that particular decision. So that is the detail that we would look forward to understand how it arrived at the decision.
What will understanding how they arrived at that decision help you better use the money that you're going to be getting in?
That's exactly the point, is that when Nersa makes an allocation, for example, the topical issue is the open cycle gas turbines, the diesel cost. So Nersa makes a determination on how much it feels to be efficient as far as diesel costs are concerned. So if Eskom uses more diesel than Nersa has determined, then it needs to think about what are the funding options be able to use that, because we will not be able to recover it from the consumer. So those are the kinds of details that we would like to understand.
You're also saying
to manage the business.
Sorry for interrupting you there. You're also saying that this increase is going to help you meet debt commitments. But all indications are that Treasury is going to be taking over 2/3 of your debt when the budget is released next month. Is that also going to then put you in a stronger position, which hopefully in future will be able to provide some breathing room to take more pressure off consumers? Or is that unlikely to ever happen despite intervention from government or Treasury?
Yes, no, look, first of all is that Eskom is getting closer, or is closing the gap between what is the efficient cost of electricity and the continuous subsidy that it has been giving to all consumers. So that gap is getting closer, and therefore Eskom will be on a more sustainable route. However, there is a big debt burden, and then once National Treasury decides on how it will take over, and the details have not been finalized. So it is possible that that will assist in the whole being able to become more sustainable as far as Eskom is concerned. But we do not know the details until the Minister of Finance makes his announcements.
In terms of debt collection, you're saying that part of the reason Eskom at this stage is not able to function sustainably is because there are so many consumers, or so many municipalities, if we put it in that sense, 100 out of 300 on average, that are not making their commitments to Eskom. How is that going to be addressed in the future? Because you can surely see from a South African citizen's point of view that if you're using electricity and you're paying for it, yet the municipality to which you pay it is not transferring that over to Eskom, that's worsening a situation despite the fact that you as an individual are making your commitments.
No, yes, absolutely. And Eskom understands that, and therefore there are many efforts through the whole political arena to try and resolve this issue. And we do understand that as far as the debt relief, etc., that National Treasury is looking at, it will also look at the debt that municipalities are owing Eskom as well. So that will be part of the package that we will look at. But this is obviously a major concern. Eskom has been trying different ways to try and address this particular situation, but has not always been successful in resolving the issue. We have made some progress, but not the bigger picture hasn't been sorted out yet. But it is a process, and that is of major concern to Eskom. And it is understandable that municipalities need to pay over the money that they collect from the consumers that consume the product.
Some business role players, as and when these debates flare up again, we hear more and more comment, people with different opinions. Some business role players saying that it is exactly because there is political intervention in Eskom's dealings, business affairs, that the situation is not improving and that privatization is the only answer. What's your response to that?
Well, many years ago, we did try to go to the privatization route, but the main issue was the price of electricity was too low. So there were no competitors to Eskom that were willing to come into the market because the price was too low. And we are unfortunately still in that situation. But obviously, we do have a lot of private players at the moment in the form of independent power producers. They basically sell their product or the electricity to Eskom, and at a rate that has been determined to be competitive by the DMRE. And that is how we do have private sector participation already. But it is a conduit through Eskom. It is not in competition to Eskom at the moment. So, it is something that the Department of Mineral Resources and Energy is looking at in trying to liberalize the market. Again, this is a process, and our understanding is that two conditions that need to be met to get into such a market situation would be there need to be sufficient capacity, which we do not have in the country, and for a few more years, it's going to be a challenge. And the other is that the price must be right to be able to attract these kinds of investors. So it is going to be a challenge. So just saying, well, let's privatize Eskom may not be an easy option to consider.
So the news that South Africans are going to be paying more for electricity has many people seeing red, or rather has them seeing black, because amid stage 6 power cuts, they can't see anything. And the argument for many South Africans is that they're expected to pay more for a service that isn't being delivered. And I think many of us understand the complexity of the situation that Eskom finds itself in. But the argument from South Africans still stands. How can, amid stage 6 blackouts, we still be expected to pay more? So give us some good news, if you can. Are you in a position to be able to tell us whether we will be looking at reduced stages or not?
No, unfortunately, that's not my area of expertise, but we do sympathize. We all are going through that. And as you say, it is a very complex situation. But just to point out from a tariff point of view, one of the contributors to us not being able to maintain, etc., has been choices that Eskom had to make because of the poor level of the tariff that we have had in the last few years. And that has probably contributed a little bit to the situation that we are in. But unfortunately, I do not have technical details and will not be able to comment on whether we will improve as far as the load shedding stages are concerned.
Do you think it would be fair to South Africans to say there should be a daily update from Eskom? Because this, it's very difficult to plan when we're told, but hang on, it will be stage whatever it may be until further notice, especially for businesses, those in manufacturing especially, can't plan at all in terms of meeting production deadlines. Do you think it's fair for South Africans to expect to, at some point, especially when we're seeing such high levels of power cuts, to expect a daily update?
Yeah, well, no, I think that makes sense, and then I will give that feedback and let's see if that can be implemented. But I think it's a good suggestion.
Excellent. Thank you very much for your time and for speaking to us. That was Eskom's Regulation General Manager, Hasha Tlhotlhalemaje, giving us an update on Nersa's agreement to a tariff increase of 18.65% for